Welcome to the Rock Interview Series with host Thomas S. Orwatt Jr.
Welcome to episode number 67 of the Rock Interview Series. I'm Thomas Orwatt Jr. It is February 3rd, 2023, and for this feature, I have the legendary guitarist and former Megadeth member Chris Poland as my featured guest. During this feature, Chris talks about the new band that he's involved with, the Kings of Thrash, which also features ex-Megadeth members David Ellefson and Jeff Young. Chris was a member of Megadeth from 1984 to 1987. During that time, he performed on the first two Megadeth records, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good, and Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? He also returns to perform on the 2004 release, The System Has Failed. In addition, we discussed Chris's 1990 solo release, Return to Metaloplolis, and his brilliant metal fusion band, OHM. So here he is, Chris Poland. Welcome to another episode of the Rock Interview Series, and today we have guitar virtuoso Chris Poland with us today. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I obviously, would like to talk about the Kings of Thrash project that you're involved in. There's a new Kings of Thrash release coming out on March 24th. It's a double CD and DVD set. It's a live performance from the Whiskey A Go-Go that was recorded in 2022. First of all, Chris, how excited were you to get involved playing with Dave Ellefson again, and also playing with Jeff Young, who actually was the person that replaced you in Megadeth?
Yeah, no, it was the first time Dave ran it by me. He was talking like months and months of touring, and I run a bunch of studios in LA, and I have my band in LA, and I told him, I said yes, and then I thought about it, and I was like, I can't just drop everything and go out for 2 months at a time. So I told him, I'll do whatever I can, whenever I can, whenever you need me. I can fly in on a weekend or 4 days or 5 days here or there. And so the first tour was 4 days long, and we made a record on the fourth day.
Yeah, and like I said, that's coming out on March 24th. The Kings of Thrash are starting a pretty good sized tour starting in a couple weeks. But you're not going to be involved in that tour?
Only if they just fly me in for like a couple shows at a time, maybe 3 or 4 shows at a time.
Are you so busy that you really can't afford to do it?
Yeah, I'm super busy. I've owed my band OHM is making a record for M Theory Audio, and they are probably wondering where it is. So that's what I'm going to be doing besides running all these studios.
Oh, I see. Okay. OHM, of course, the metal fusion band. Is that what you want? Is metal fusion a good description?
Yeah, it's just a hard rock instrumental band, I guess.
Yeah, some great stuff. You released 2 singles in 2022, Exit Stage Left and the 9th one. I'm assuming that these are going to be on an upcoming release, full-length release.
Well, actually, those were demos, but
oh, okay.
Then M Theory just said, why not? They sound good. Let's just release them. So we'll probably we may re-record those. I don't know.
They sound great. They sound great. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So are there any are you going to continue to work with the Kings of Thrash going forward, as far as like, if the band decides to record new material?
Yeah, if they want me to come in and play on some songs, absolutely I would play with them. I mean, the great thing about that band was everything just fell into place. It was just like it was charmed or something. But the 2 things you need, man, you need a great bass player and a great drummer. Everything else falls into place when you have that. So with Fred on drums and David on bass, it was kind of like it was already happening right from the get-go,
Yeah. I heard a rumor that you guys actually reached out to some other Megadeth alumni to participate in the project, but they didn't make the cut. Is that true?
I'm not sure how that worked out, but the way it worked out was how it was meant to be. So
yeah, I mean, great killer band, and for a lot of Megadeth fans, those 3 records that you concentrate on, the first 3 records of the band's career, are really like, many people's like top three favorite Megadeth records. So I mean the concept is awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. And David hit the nail on the head, man, when he said this is what they want. This is what they've been waiting for all these years because, Megadeth doesn't ever play these songs anymore. And I know why. It's like the difficulty factor is kind of up there. So but I mean, man, it was a lot of fun. So I'm hoping, I get a weekend here or a weekend there. I have a Stone Tone. Rob over at Stone Tone bought me a quad Cortex. So I'm going to capture my LA rig, and that way I can just throw the quad Cortex in my suitcase. It's about as big as a laptop,
Oh
and I
wow.
can I don't even need an amp. I can just play through the PA.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I hope one of the days that you show up for is the Buffalo gig, which happens not to be on a weekend. It's on March 1st, but maybe you can come down for that. That would be pretty cool to see you on
Well,
stage.
here my rule is anything after the 15th of any month, I'm free for weekends.
Oh, all right, cool. Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure
I mean that's just the way my life's working right now.
yeah. No, I totally get it. Um, there's been some talk also about you know, Dave Mustang's opinion of the Kings of Thrash. And it seems like David and Jeff don't really give a shit what he thinks about this project. Do you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I mean, we're not a cover band really. We played
No.
on all those songs, and he's making the publishing, so he's just getting free publishing for us recording the record. So he's really got nothing, to be upset about.
Yeah. And
I mean, basically, it's a kind of a tribute to, his writing. So,
in my interview I had with Jeff Young a few months back, he mentioned that he mentioned how difficult it was to like play your solos when he had to come into the band, and that you were one of the people that he really looked up to as a guitar player. How difficult was it for you to go back and learn how to play that stuff again?
oh no,
For,
it wasn't easy, and I was really focused on the first four shows, so that by the fourth show, I was trying to get it, really get it together, and I did the best I could. But then as we took time off, like we just played Atlanta, and there's so much time has gone by, and I've been so busy. Like we had a lot of rain, my studios leaked, people complained, But anyway, when I was playing Atlanta, I was like, oh, shit, how's that solo go? And I was trying to, staying up at the hotel room at night trying to remember the solos, and I did the best I could. But yeah, no, it wasn't easy. And when I was in Megadeth, I never played the solos verbatim anyway, and it used to drive Dave nuts.
but I'm sure also as a musician, you must have enjoyed the challenge of improvising. You
Oh
know,
yeah, no, that too. But it's I tried to capture the the outline. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I knew that fans that listen to the songs, they knew the solos like they did, they know the solos. So I got pretty close on the live record.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can't wait to hear the rest of it. I want to go back and talk about when you first joined Megadeth back in 1984. Now Megadeth was originally just a three-piece band, correct?
yeah, Gar had joined the band, and we were working at BC Rich at the time, and that's funny, isn't it? Gar was the head of R&D at BC Rich Guitars. Anyway,
Right. Yeah.
he told me they needed another guitar player, so he said just grab your gear, go to Mara's Studios and rent a room, and I did, and those guys heard me play, and that's how I got in the band.
Right.
And then when we went in to do the record, I didn't. I was only in the band for a week.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of like, whew.
Did you have any reservations of joining the band at first?
No, No, because Gar was right. He said, no, it's just like what we were doing before. It's just louder and more distorted.
And what
Because
did you?
we were playing in a like a Mahavishnu orchestra band that, you know, Gar's brother Stu wrote all the horn parts out for the horn players that would show up at our gigs. And you know, it was pretty complicated music. So when I heard Mustaine's music, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And so we kind of fit right in with coming from a jazz rock fusion band, because that was a serious fusion band. It wasn't like Ohm is kind of like an experimental rock instrumental band.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean the one thing that really stands out from the two records that you played with Megadeth, is your very innovative guitar style. I mean, you weren't like any other metal guitarist at the time. I mean, you were very unique.
I can only play how I play because of my hand injury. So it's like the way I play is how I play, and that's it.
Oh, how did you obtain a hand injury?
Um, I uh, I was in school and we were horsing around. Some guy, you know, knocked a bunch of books out of my hand, so I chased him, and he ran into like the lab of the school, and the hydraulic was broke on the door, and it was a 9 pane frosted glass door, and it was a big oak door. And when he slammed it, my right hand hit the you know, the frame, not the glass, but my left hand hit the glass, and then he freaked out like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" When he opened the door, it just totally thrashed my hand. Just
Oh,
I
wow.
could see the bones in my pointer finger.
Wow. And at the time, were you concerned that you might never play guitar again?
Oh yeah, the Dr. Casagrande, he was the guy that did the Buffalo Bills knees. He told my mom and dad, he goes, he'll never play guitar again. And he'll be lucky if he can use that hand. And so I had a cast on for like 6 months. It kept getting smaller and smaller with my fingers all extended out. And then finally, when they took the cast off, my arm was really atrophied. And it took about 6 months. And then I just started playing guitar a different way.
Wow. Now you mentioned the Buffalo Bills. So now I think we need to mention the fact that you grew up in Dunkirk, New York, which is very close to Buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It was when the Bills lost the third time at the Super Bowl. That's when I don't even watch football anymore.
It's probably smart being a Bills fan.
Yeah, I don't even care anymore. I
Yeah,
was so I was living with my brother and we were watching those games, and every time it was like, huh?
yep,
And
it's
that's
like
it.
that now too. I'm calling you from Buffalo. I'm a lifelong resident of Buffalo, New York. And
Nice.
yeah, and I know right where Dunkirk is, of course. And yeah, the Buffalo Bills, what can I say? I really thought this was the year that they're gonna win it all, and again, we're disappointed here. So yeah, so going back to Dunkirk, New York, how did you go from Dunkirk, New York to LA?
I I had left home to go to Albany, and I was living with Mike Meany. He was a drummer for a band called Welkin, and Rob McGee was the bass player, and their guitar player Dick Maxfield decided to stay in the army. He was going, I think he was going to Florida. I can't remember. But anyway, so they asked me if I wanted to join the band, and I was like, sure, because those guys basically were really influential on my, you know, on my guitar journey. They would like, you know, take me to their house during like school breaks, and I'd jam with them for like a week, and then, you know, sometimes I would hitchhike to their house, which was across state, and just jam with them whenever I had free time. And you know, they turned me on to, you know, McLaughlin and Larry Coryell, and just, you know, you name it, they had it. I mean, I was listening to Weather Report on a Macintosh stereo with Voice of the Theater like speakers, and it was just an amazing time for me.
Well,
Oh, and and they had like a like a gold top 54 Les Paul that they you know, Moon would just go, yeah, just play that guitar.
wow.
I'd be like, okay.
So what year did you leave Dunkirk, New York?
Jesus, 77.
Oh,
Because
wow. Okay.
I moved back home when just before I left, and then in 77 on October 31st, I landed in Los Angeles in 1977.
Wow. And how intimidating was that for you? I mean, I'm sure it was exciting also, but it had to be a bit, you know.
No, the only thing that freaked me out was the freeway. You know, out in LA, they have these reflectors when you change lanes.
Hmm.
And I wasn't used to hearing when you change lanes. It was freaking me out. But otherwise, it was a blast. I mean, I was all I could see were palm trees everywhere, and I felt like I was on vacation for 5 years.
Yeah, it was a good time to be in LA back then, wasn't it?
It was. LA was a much better place than it is now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So you joined Megadeth. Tell me about some of the first dates that you well, let's talk about your very first date that you played with Megadeth. What was that particular date like? And what was
That
that
was
show like? And give me some details on what it was like.
pretty sure it was L'Amour's in New York. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
club, very low ceiling, um, super like sweaty, hot. Like the ceiling would drip water. There was just so much condensation in the air. Anyway, I'm hiding behind a stack, waiting to go on, and I actually borrowed. Kerry King was on that same bill, and I borrowed his Boss 10 band graphic so I could get some, gain out of that the rental amp that we had because we flew in to do the show. And so I'm standing behind the stack and they're playing Diamond Head Am I Evil. That's the first time I heard it. And I think I've heard it once since then. And I'm looking out at the audience, and I had never heard Dave sing or talk to an audience before, except in the studio, but not live. And man, it freaked me out. The whole thing was just really like, wow, I was totally blown away by how intense the fans were, and just it was really like not what I was used to.
Yeah, yeah. Was that bill with Slayer?
I'm pretty sure it was because Carrie was there.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's pretty cool. So the first show you played with Megadeth was playing with Slayer also on the bill. That's
Opening.
cool.
I
Yeah.
think we opened for
You
Slayer.
you opened for Slayer. Yeah, that would make sense because I think Slayer already had a few releases out by then.
And speaking of Am I Evil, when we played Atlanta, the guys from Hardwired came out and started playing it, and I had never played the song before, so I'm trying to figure out how to play it, and then I just faked my way through it anyway because there was 20 people on stage playing guitar anyway.
Wow. Was your their first year with Megadeth? I mean, what kind of trip was that for you? I mean, you already mentioned that you were like, you know, kind of blown away by the live audience reaction to the band. I mean, I'm sure it got more and more intense as the year rolled on.
Well, I didn't go out for the remainder of for the very first Killing is My Business tour because um, I was confused about a t-shirt deal, and I felt like me and Gar were getting ripped off, so I just said I'm not going. So they had Mike Albert go and fill in. And then when Dave came back, um, they explained to me what was going on, and I said, all right. And so then I joined the band again for Peace Sells.
Oh,
And
I
and
see.
that record, that whole thing was we toured like 4 or 5 times, all, over and over and over again before we even made the record. And then we came off the road. I mean, it could have been like 4 days after we got off the road. We were right in the studio. So, we knew those songs inside and out. Gar just nailed everything. Everybody did.
Yeah, that is such a classic record. And I feel that a lot of bands that know the material and play it live before they record it, I always feel that, those are always turned out to be some of the best records of that particular band is, when they're really confident with the songs because they played it so many times.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So what were some of the what was touring like for that? Who were some bands that you performed with on the same bill with?
Well, I mean, the band that broke us was Alice Cooper, because he brought us out on his tour, and we were with him for I think a month, and that was it. And that's when the band just started taking off. The record went gold, and then Capitol started going okay, and then they sent us to Europe, and
That's a pretty interesting bill to think about back in, in the mid 1980s, because I mean Megadeth was, considered pretty extreme at the time.
yeah,
And Alice Cooper was, just your kind of like your typical heavy metal band. He kind of had like a resurgence in his career. He was going through a resurgence in his career. So I mean, I'm surprised that Megadeth went over so well, considering that your typical Alice Cooper fans were probably like looking at you like, "Holy shit, what the hell is this?"
yeah. But Alice got the band. He knew what we were about, and the only place that we weren't received, with open arms was Detroit.
Detroit Rock City did not accept you guys, huh?
No, because that's where Alice Cooper's from. So they were
Oh,
like, not everybody, but there were like, if there's 18,000 people out there, and there were, because we played the Joe Louis Arena when it was
yeah.
still there, and they were whipping quarters and $half at us while we were playing. So I had to keep my eye out, like I had to see something shiny coming, and I duck out of the way, and
Okay.
eventually somehow, I don't know if the security stopped it, but it stopped. But everywhere else, there was no quarters.
Well, that's good. It kind of like is reminiscent of back in like, the 70s. When I saw my first concert, which was 1978 with Ted Nugent at the Odd in Buffalo. I was shocked at how people were like throwing fireworks around while he was playing.
Yeah.
I mean, fireworks. I mean, can you imagine throwing a firework at a concert nowadays? What would happen to you?
Well, I got to tell you, me and Gar were, we're at these huge arenas, right? And there's nothing to do, because they're setting everything up, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting. So we found where the hairstylist for all the people that, the actors that go on stage for Alice Cooper, and we found their hairspray. So me and Gar had a lighter and a can of hairspray firefight, and somehow a tablecloth caught on fire, and we put it out, but there was a lot of smoke. And then, of course, Alice's people saw it was us. And so he called the whole band up on his bus. He basically said, I know what you guys are doing. I've been there, but you might want to dial it back a little bit, because you guys are out of control. And
Yeah.
so, we said, I apologize. And everybody else just looked at me and Gar like, Dave and Dave were like, it was them.
Yeah,
But
there is a lot of stories, war stories about, Megadeth, like, being a bit out of control back then. I mean, what was it? I mean, are those stories exaggerated, or, I mean, what?
no,
No,
not at all.
it was pretty decadent. It was a pretty
Yeah,
dec yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and
But you know what? It's like, it was what it was. That was the time. Those things were happening, and there's not much we could do about it. Because we had to go out and tour. And so we did the best we could.
yeah, but in the end, it kind of was very destructive to, to the band itself.
Um, well, that's another story. But
Yeah,
anyway,
so
it was great. It was great. It was a lot of fun. It's the first time I saw Europe, first time I saw Japan. And I was really glad I played on the record after that I did the first two records. I'm glad that I got to do that, because that kind of was like, I never got to play on a record when I was sober with Megadeth, and I felt like my playing was way better than it was back when I was in the band then. And so when I played on The System Has Failed, I was like, okay, I finally got to do, you know, something that, that I, not that I wasn't happy with what I did on Peace Sells Their Killing, but, it was just a record with a budget, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure that just cutting the drums costs more than Peace Sells and Killing Is My Business on The System Has Failed.
Yeah, The System Has Failed was released in 2004, so it was, quite a bit of time between that period of when you left the band in 87. But you also kind of came back briefly in 1989.
Oh, well, I went and played on some demos. That's all.
Were you thinking about, or were you asked to join the band at that
Yeah,
point?
no, and I was actually thinking about it, and at the time, my manager, her name was Janie Hoffman.
Mhm.
On the drive there, I was, going to join, and then she talked to me, and by the time I got there, I was like, yeah, I'm not joining that band.
And why did you make that decision? What wasn't right? Did you feel?
Because I was off drugs and alcohol, and they weren't,
Um,
and it wouldn't have taken but everything, because I had to go to rehab, and basically they told me if you're around that, you just can't be around it. And so I just decided I wouldn't do that.
yeah. How long after you left Megadeth in 1987 did it take you to clean up, to be able to be sober again?
Oh, months, a couple months. I hit bottom, and it's a long story, but luckily I hit bottom, and it's a good story, and hopefully it'll come out in a book someday.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. Is it sounds like you would have a great book in you with all your experiences and all the adversity you faced throughout your career, and that would be an
Yeah,
awesome
no,
book.
yeah, Tom Hazard had wrote a book with David Ellefson, and we started a book that's 2/3 finished, and I would like to release it. I'm just waiting for Tom to do the finishing touches, I guess.
Now, in the late '80s, after you left Megadeth, were there any other bands that approached you to join their band?
No, not really, because Dave had, you know, like Dave had told all these stories about how I stole all the band's equipment and sold it for heroin. So, nobody wanted to touch me, with a 10-foot pole, except for the Circle Jerks. They, I auditioned for them and got the gig, and I played bass in that band for a year. But yeah, Dave made it his mission to, you know, basically make me the bad guy.
Yeah, you were so bad that he asked you, he wanted to perform again with you in 1989.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of sad that that happened, but it did. And people to this day still, like super diehard Dave Mustaine fans are like, yeah, Chris Poland's a scumbag. And the only thing I ever pawned was my amp
Wow.
and sometimes my guitar, but they would send our personal manager out. His name was Scott Menzies, and he would just go to he knew the pawn shop. He would go to the pawn shop, get it out, and then we'd start the next tour. We were broke. I mean, even when things were going really, really good, we only made $200 a piece a week.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, all the Chris spent all the record company money for the first record on drugs. I didn't control any money. I was just given $200 in my hand once a week, my per diem. So yeah, it wasn't all that glamorous, let me tell you.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
no, me and Gar and Dave, we suffered and crawled through glass. And then these other guys joined the band, and the first thing they do is hop on a bus. And we were sleeping in Winnebagos with no propane, and it's 20 below in Boston. and we had no hotel. Definitely paid our dues for that band.
Yeah. Wow. I want to talk about your solo record that you put out in 1990 on Enigma Records called Return to Metaloplolis. Tell me a little bit about that record. I mean, I've been listening to that in preparation for this interview, and it's just outstanding. It's such an incredible release.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it was just song ideas that I asked my brother to join the band when I decided I was going to try and do it. And I knew he could do it because he was influenced a lot by Gar, and he had Gar's, you know, he had Gar's way of knowing what to do somehow. And I knew that he was going to really kill that record, and he did. And so we had a little Tascam cassette 4-track in a tiny little room over in Vernon, California, Francisco Studios, the same place Megadeth, where me and Dave lived together in a rehearsal room. Yeah, we just got the songs together one by one, and then we had a deal at Capitol, and then all of a sudden we didn't, and they made us go to Enigma, and that's another story that hopefully will be in a book someday.
Do you think somebody might have been behind that?
Possibly.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. I know Enigma at the time, they were kind of struggling around 1990.
Well, I can't tell you what happened, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was yeah, I really like that record. It was great playing with my brother on that. My only regret was I wish I had a bass player in the studio, when we cut the record, because I played bass and basically I was just playing verbatim what my guitar was doing, and I didn't really think about that part of it, but live and learn.
Did you play any live dates in support of that record?
Oh yeah, we went out, we did a tour with Death Angel, and then when we were coming back to the West Coast, we were on our way into Las Vegas, and that band, man, they hit Black Ice, and they were in a Winnebago, and that went sideways, and their drummer got injured, and then the tour was canceled, and that was that. And then Enigma went bankrupt like a month later.
Yeah. When you played with Megadeth in the very first round, for first part of Megadeth, what was Dave Mustang's attitude about Metallica? Did he like bring up Metallica? Was it like a constant thing where you guys were kind of like always looking in the rearview mirror and seeing what Metallica was doing?
No, but I mean, it was a thorn in Dave's side. I mean, and then I mean, when I was listening to Master of Puppets, the production and tones on that record were so far ahead of us, that it kind of bummed me out. And I think it had something to do with their producer and the fact that they recorded it in Europe. And I have a feeling that all the recording equipment, the board, the amps, everything was running at 220 or 240, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I swear, man, I think that makes a difference, because when we were in England, our guitar tech Gadget came running into the dressing room, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." And we ran out, and we played through real English Marshalls running at 220. And I had never heard anything like that. I was like, man, no wonder. So I've been threatening to buy a couple, step up, step down transformers so I could run my stuff at 220, but money's tight. So
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've never heard anyone mention that before, but it does kind of make sense.
well,
Yeah,
I mean, not besides the fact that those guys actually cared about how they sounded, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I cared too, but a lot of everybody's playing is in their hands anyway. But you know, those guys had their tones together. That record was just, you know, so amazing.
Yeah.
So was Peace Sells, though. I mean, later on down the road, you know, when you're close to something like that, you know, you have a different, you know, aspect of it, you know. But
Yeah.
I've come to, you know, believe that you know, Peace Sells is a classic, just like you know, Master of Puppets is.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean,
Yeah, and I'm not, you know, I'm lucky I was on it. You know, there's guitar players out here that play circles around me that no one's ever going to know their name. And just no, I know I'm lucky, even though, you know,
yeah,
it wasn't pretty, but I know I'm lucky.
yeah. What are your three most favorite Megadeth songs?
Oh, that has changed since I started playing with David again. Really, really, really like Good Morning.
Yeah.
That's probably my best moment on Peace Sells. And I never realized it until I tried to learn it. And then when I realized there was something going on there that, you know, I totally forgot about. Like I really listened to the touch and the way the guitar was responding. It was just like, I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah, it's
That
absolutely. Yep.
that song, The Conjuring, and Peace Sells, probably. But then, you know, then there's Devil's Island, and you know, there's too many good songs, man.
Yeah, I'm like they are the classics, like you said. I mean, they really are. That was really interesting to see how you would pick out of those great classic songs what your top three would be, and that's a good list you put together. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Black Friday. I mean, come on, it's like there's nowhere. They're all just, you know. I think the weakest song on the record is probably the cover.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How difficult was it, or was it an easy process writing with Dave Mustaine?
Well, you know, basically, Dave had everything written before, you know, I was even in the band. All I did was added harmonies to Peace Cells and um, Devil's Island, the very intro part where there's that dissident um, chord that goes up into the upper register. Those are the only two things that I gave to, you know, Megadeth besides my solos. And then luckily Gar, you know, Dave had a lot of respect for Gar. So Peace Cells was like 9 minutes long or something. It was really long, and Gar insisted that we cut it to the length it's at now. And Dave, I think Dave didn't realize that Peace Cells was going to be like such a huge song, and I think he was just like, yeah, it is kind of long. Let's do that. You know, it wasn't a big deal. There was no fight. It just happened, and that was that.
Hmm. Wow, interesting. Well, Chris, I want to thank you very much for this very fascinating interview. The last question I have for you is if Kings of Thrash were performing and Dave Mustaine showed up to one of the gigs and wanted to come on stage and perform songs with you guys, would you allow him to come up on stage and jam with you?
Fuck, I would. Yeah, I would. Are you kidding? That would be. I mean, please. I mean, that would be pretty cool. But I mean, I don't know. You know, Dave's so. You know, Dave's probably kind of like Miles Davis. You know, kind of Miles Davis never looked back. He only looked forward. And I know he's playing certain songs from certain records, but I don't think he wants to go that far back.
Yeah.
And that'd be a
Well,
lot for him to learn. I mean, to try and, you know, but I guess he wrote it. You could probably play that in about 5 minutes. I was surprised when I was learning the songs. I was like, what the hell did I play there? Or what's that part? And all of a sudden my muscle memory came back. And I was like, oh my God, that's how I played it. And it was 40 years ago, you know?
wow. That
Yeah, man. I was like, I told David Ellefson that. He goes, yeah, I know, me too.
wow. That's pretty incredible.
But I do want to say that Jeff Young, oh my God. I mean, I knew Jeff Young was a great guitarist, but being out and and playing those shows with him, and I just have a whole new respect for his playing, man, because I mean he is nailing Dave and nailing himself, and then just rocking while he's doing it. It's pretty amazing, man. Not to take anything away from Chaz. Chaz is an amazing guitar player himself,
Right,
and
right.
to sing and play those things, I only thought Dave could do that.
Yeah, that's the one thing that a lot of, people online are commenting about. I mean, Dave Mustaine, those are difficult shoes to like, not really step into, but I mean, it's hard to like
Hey,
emulate
you,
him.
you you can learn the parts, but you're going to learn the parts and sing it while you're playing it. I mean, I used to wonder how Dave did it when I was in the band. When we were playing those hard songs like that. And Chaz, not a problem.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's like the perfect person for the job.
He is, and he's totally everybody in that band. It's just it's all for one and one for all, man. There's no egos anywhere. It's everybody's just like, let's go.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're going to have a very successful tour. I'm looking forward to seeing them in Buffalo when they play here on March 1st. And Chris, again, thank you very much for talking to me, and best of luck. And hopefully, you can return back to the Western New York area, maybe even with home, and play a gig over here again.
Yeah, I would love to do that, man. Now that I have this quad cortex, if I can get it together and make it so I have a suitcase rig, I would love to do that. And man, I have I have a good feeling about this release. It's just there's something about it. It all came together too easy.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was just like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And that gig it was just the audience, it was like 1987. Wait till you see the video. It's like crazy, man. There's a pit. There's so many people in there. It had to be a fire marshal would have closed this down.
Wow.
Anyway, I know you got to go.
Yeah, but
So,
I appreciate it, and yeah, let's definitely talk again soon, and best of luck to you.
yeah.
And
Thanks again to all the Megadeth fans. They're the best fans in the world, man.
yeah, I agree. All right, Chris, thank you very much, man.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. See ya. Bye.
Bye.